Hey YouTube, Luke here. Today I wanted to post my real first video. I'm going to be talking about Conley Woods' top 8 constructed cards from Dark Ascension. Basically, I've got the list right here. I'm going to go from number 8 to number 1, and I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the cards, as well as their impact on the set and their impact in Standard. So number 8 is Strangleroot Geist. For those of you who don't know, it's a green spirit for 2 green mana. It's a haste undying 2/1 for 2 green mana. Now, it's an interesting card to meet top 8. It's a green spirit, which means you've got synergy with other white and blue spirits in the deck, and it's haste undying on a green card. And now it's interesting to see because with a green spirit, it allows the creation of Bant Birthing Pod to come back into Standard. I mean, this could replace the 2-drop Viridian Emissary or Leonin Arbiter or Leonin Relic Warder, and you'd still get a 3/2 on next turn. Also, if Bant Birthing Pod comes back in, you could use Venser the Sojourner, the Planeswalker, to bounce your Strangleroot Geist every turn, and he'd come back in without a +1/+1 counter. He would be able to continually die without any disadvantage. It's a very interesting card, and I'm glad that it meets top 8. Number 7 is Gravecrawler. Now this card is pretty good. For a 1-drop, you've got a 2/1 zombie. Although it can block, it comes back into play from the graveyard if you can pay for it, if you have a zombie creature on the battlefield. Now, it's interesting because, I mean, it reminds me a lot of Bloodghast from Zendikar, that you could keep bringing it back from the graveyard every time you landfalled. But this is almost better because I think it's easier late game for a creature to die, or I mean for a creature to be on the battlefield than for you to landfall. I mean, a 2/1 for 1, it's just... If you bring him back with a Diagraph Captain, not only are you pinging your opponent for 2 damage every turn, 3 damage every turn with Diagraph Captains plus, but you're also making them lose a life every time they block. Plus, as long as you have the Diagraph on the field, you can just keep bringing it back every turn for 1 black mana. It's a very good card for Constructed, and I'm glad that it's in top 8. Number 6 is Tragic Slip, and I'm also a little disappointed that Tragic Slip didn't make top 3 in this list. Tragic Slip has got to be one of the most versatile kill spells that there's ever been in the series of Magic. I mean, it's a -1/-1 for 1 black mana, but it can be up to -13/-13 if a creature died this turn. It's so versatile for a 1 mana kill spell. I mean, just think about it. They're swinging with a -1 or a 1/1 token, and you give it -1/-1, and then you're able to kill whatever you want on the battlefield with another one. For 2 black mana, you've successfully killed 2 creatures on the battlefield. It's a very good card, and I'm very surprised it didn't make top 3 in this list, but I'm glad it did make top 8. It'll be very interesting to see how people use this card to kill 1-drops in Standard, as well as kill big things later on. Number 5, which I almost think should be number 1 on this list, is Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls is like Midnight Haunting, except it's a sorcery, and it's also got Flashback for 1 and a black. Let me explain this card. You play it. You have 2 flying 1/1 spirits for 3 mana. Next turn, you flashback it for 2 mana, and you have 2 more 1/1 flying spirits. So for 5 mana, you essentially have 4 different creatures, both with 1/1 flyers. Now, it's very, very interesting to see this card's synergy with cards like Intangible Virtue and Honor of the Pure. I mean, with an Honor of the Pure out, you essentially have 8 flying damage for 5 mana. Think about other anthems that you could possibly have on the field, such as Selfless Cathar sacrificing himself, and you've got up to 12 or 16 flying damage for 6 mana. This card is going to change Standard completely. I mean, you're going to see black-white tokens come back into Standard, especially with Sorin and Lingering Souls. And it's going to be interesting to see how they play out in Standard versus other tempo decks. Number 4 is Huntmaster of the Fells. Now, I haven't really looked at Huntmaster of the Fells that much, and I haven't really seen him play that much, so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays in werewolf decks in Standard. I don't know if many people will play him. I mean, he's a great mythic. He comes into play, you get a 2/2, another 2/2, and 2 life for 4 mana. But will he replace Solemn Simulacrum in black, green, red, Kessig? I don't think he will. I think that people are going to want Solemn Simulacrums in the deck as their 4-drop, because people are going to want that acceleration of that cantrip and the basic land search. It's an interesting card though. I mean, if you're able to keep flipping him, you've got an unlimited amount of life, an unlimited amount of tokens, and an unlimited amount of damage dealing. I mean, you flip him over and you've got 2 shocks, one to a creature, one to a player. It's going to be interesting to see people try to manipulate him into standard, but I don't know if he'll see much play. Number 3 is Grafdigger's Cage. Now, there's been a lot of argument about this card. People think it's overpowered, people think it's underpowered, and I'm going to have to agree in the middle somewhere. You know, it's a good card. It's a good card to put in the main deck limited because you're going to stop people from playing half their spells. And by half their spells, I mean they're going to still be able to play their original spell, but they're not going to have that flashback or undying to them. But I don't see this card seeing a lot of main deck in standard, obviously, because not that many decks have not all decks have that undying flashback theme to the deck, like they don't rely on it. But even so, decks that do rely on it aren't going to get completely obliterated by this card. I mean, they're wasting a card, maybe more than one card if they want multiple in the deck, to stop half of your spells. I mean, you're still going to be able to play the spell once, you're just not going to be able to play it again. I mean, it's just like any other spell or creature in Magic. It's just not going to have flashback and it's not going to have undying. Plus, people who see this card main decked are going to want to sideboard against it. They're going to want to play their spells double times, and they're just going to sideboard artifact removal. For a 1-drop mana, I mean, I have to give it to it. It is a 1-drop, and it is a pain in the ass to take care of, but honestly, people will take care of it, and it's not going to see that much main decking in standard. Number 2 is Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. Now, the only planeswalker in the set, and he is a beast. I mean, you bring him out and you can set down the emblem immediately. You can give all your creatures an Anthem effect for -2 right when he comes out, which I almost feel is better than trying to get him up to 6 unless you're seeing heavy threats. I mean, if you bring him out and you're automatically giving all of your creatures +1/+0, why wouldn't you do that permanently? Because it's not like anything can get rid of an emblem. I mean, if you've got multiple in the deck, you might as well do that just so you can have that power behind your force. He's really cool. I really like his ultimate. I mean, it's basically mind control for 3 permanents that you want, creatures or planeswalkers. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see him play in standard. I think a lot of people are going to play black-white tokens because he's been created. A lot of people are going to try to maneuver him into vampires, I think. A lot of people are going to splash white for him. It's going to be very interesting to see him play. I mean, he's he's got token creation, he's got power manipulation, and he's got kill spells. I mean, he goes on a killing spree in his ultimate. He kills 3 things and you get control of them. It's going to be very interesting to see him in standard, and I can't wait to see him make top 8 decks. Now, number 1 is Evolving Wilds, and I'm a little confused to see why this card is number 1 in Constructed. In Limited, I would understand, because Limited, you don't have that many dual lands or other kind of lands that will help you get your mana base, and you want that Evolving Wilds to help make sure that your mana is stabilized. But in Constructed, I don't know why you wouldn't just play more dual lands or more lands that would help you get that land versus Evolving Wilds. Evolving Wilds is the same thing as a Terramorph in that you have to tap and sacrifice it and the land comes into play tapped. So why would you want to play it instead of finding another land that comes into play untapped? I mean, yeah, you're risking not getting your color, but honestly, you're going to want to see a land that you can play that turn rather than an Evolving Wilds turn 5 or turn 4 so that you can play your turn 5 or turn 4 play. Evolving Wilds is good early game. I'm not going to deny it. You get whatever land you want on turn 1 and nothing's going to stop it. But late game, you're going to want to see that land, and more often than not, you're going to get Evolving Wilds late game, in my opinion. Well, that's Conley Woods' top 8. I hope that you guys enjoyed my thoughts on the cards, and if you have any comments or anything you'd like to say about my comments on the cards or Conley Woods' top 8, please comment below my video and I'll read them later, and I'd like to reply to them.